To order, I'll ask each commissioner to please respond with a "here" when I call out their name. Commissioner Doan.
Here.
Commissioner Duggan.
Commissioner Duggan is going to be remote this evening, but I will look for his attendance when we move into executive session.
Commissioner Lysak.
Here.
Commissioner Sanders.
Here.
I will now close the regular session and the board will convene an executive session. Will the district recorder please read the executive session script?
Certainly. An executive session of the board is called under ORS 1926602E to conduct deliberations to negotiate real property transactions, 1926602H to consult with counsel concerning the legal rights and duties of a public body with regard to current litigation or litigation likely to be filed, and 1926602F to consider information or records that are exempt by law from public inspection.
I will now return us to regular session. I have reports by the CEO and management staff.
All right. Good evening, President Fisher and Commission. A quick update on our budget calendar. We're starting to hit the budget season. We're going to have our budget committee tour on April 4th. This will start at 11 a.m. and it'll go until 4:30 or so. We have 5 on the list here just to give us enough time depending on traffic. We'll have lunch, we'll do a bit of a presentation, and we'll take you out and look at some of the construction sites so you can see what's going on there. We'll have our first budget committee workshop. This is not a budget committee meeting, so this is a workshop on April the 10th at 6 p.m. Followed by our second one on April 30th. And then we'll have the formal budget hearing on May 28th at 6 p.m. And of course, at your regular June meeting, we'll have the budget prepared for adoption by the board. So we're in budget season. Glad to report that everything is on schedule moving forward and looking forward to the budget committee tour coming up shortly. I want to verify attendance for a quorum at the upcoming Barney and GWC meetings. They're at the point where they need to adopt their budgets, and so we want to make sure we don't have a situation like we had, for example, the WRWC, where we didn't have quorum, need to reschedule. So the next Barney and GWC meeting is scheduled now for April 18th, starting at 1 p.m. It's not at April 11th, as originally promised or proposed. The meeting will be offered in person at the Hillsborough Civic Center and through Zoom. We can also host a Zoom meeting here if you prefer to come into the office to attend that way. But I'd like to confirm the attendance for the commissioners that will be there, just to see if we will have, so I can pass it on to the JWC and Barney. So Commissioner Sanders, you will be, President Commissioner Doan will be, and Commissioner Lysak. Okay, that's great. My schedule, just a quick update. I'll be attending the AMWA, that's the Association of Metropolitan Water Agencies, Water Policy Conference in Washington, D.C. on April 6th through the 9th. During that time, our Customer Service Director, Andrew Carlstrom, will serve as acting in capacity for the CEO. And we discussed with Commissioner Fisher at the agenda planning meeting, canceling the April work session. You have a lot going on with the budget committee meetings, so we thought we would give you a break. We had no pressing business agenda items for April, so with your approval, we will not schedule that work session. Any concerns about that? Okay. And with that, the director's report will be from our CIO, Tim Boylan.
It's a lot longer when you have to walk this way.
Walk of shame.
Good evening. About the same. So we're going to talk a little bit about cybersecurity because that's what I do when I get before you. This is all a little bit of a lead-in because cybersecurity is ultimately going to be one of our key initiatives in the upcoming biennium. So I wanted to set the stage and at least provide a little background about how we're thinking about it, what's going on, and it'll ramp up ultimately into what we're going to do for the next 2 years on the topic. So I want to start with a little bit of a primer on what's happened over the last few years with the evolution of cybersecurity. So we originally focused for many years on defending people getting into your network or into your systems that shouldn't be there. This was largely done with putting firewalls on the edge of your network, using security certificates, having complex passwords. They were all designed to keep people at the edge of your systems and not get in. And then over the last few years, we've seen a dramatic change to viruses and malware taking over your system, or ransomware where the system is locked and people demand a ransom for it, or phishing attacks where you're being contacted either through email or phone or social media or wherever it looks like. So the evolution has gone from pure just guys sitting in the dark trying to break into your system to more socially oriented attacks. And then even in the last couple of years, it's really gone through the roof with AI generated threats, automated threats, things where there's not a specific bad actor, but there's a specific engine driving bad behavior. So this is a fundamental shift in the capabilities of folks who are trying to execute fraud, deception, theft, identity theft, things of that nature. So for a long time, it was pretty easy to plan for cybersecurity threats. Now, it's suddenly the Wild West again. And we need to evolve our stance and our processes to try and combat some of these really advanced, really complex, and very quickly changing environments. So with AI coming into the scene, there's a lot of news that hits about the benefits and the wonders of AI, how the medical profession can use it, how it's going to make workers more productive. We have a lot of folks here at the district who make use of AI. We can see it, we can see traffic going out to ChatGPT, Copilot, some of the other choices. I mean, even something as basic as Grammarly is an AI engine designed to help you write better. There's a lot of benefit in having tools of this nature. But the flip side of that is it drives the number of exploits and the number of challenges through the roof. This was one that hit our radar when it happened back in 24, is an AI generated image and vocal session caused a worker to transfer $25 million to a fake person. They impersonated the CFO of the company, asked for a transfer, the employee executed it. They thought they were dealing with their own employee. When I went to the Gartner conference in October, they demonstrated in real time how they could take 8 seconds of a video and create a fake AI persona of an executive and then have that executive interact in real time with employees. The voice patterns, the visual, the environment, it's very, very accessible now to the average person. So this is a whole different level of threat, a whole different level of concern for how we deal with things. So one of our goals is to try and enable AI with more safety. Gartner put out a statement recently that said by next year, by 2026, people who can wrangle and give their workers the benefit of an AI engine, but also increase how that organization is trained to deal with cybersecurity threats, see about 40% less incidents. So this is based on the fact that workers are demanding access to AI technologies like ChatGPT or Copilot, but those also bring threats. So the balance is, how do you give the employees the tools to make a difference in their day-to-day job, but also not be an opening through which bad actors can walk. So what we're going to start taking a look at is actually leveraging AI in some of the products that we're looking to buy in the next biennium that can actually combat external threats by looking for patterns, looking for unusual behaviors, looking for cracks in the defense, if you will. And then we're actually buying new network hardware right now. We've got an RFP. We purchased part of the gear already. We're going to market to buy the rest of it. And it's all based on the concept of zero trust. And what zero trust means for the district is that there's a continuous verification of who you are and that you're allowed to be doing what you're doing. It's not entering a password and saying, go play in the sandbox, we've let you through the front door. It's constantly checking, are you authorized to access that document, that service, that application, whatever it is. It's baked into the technology infrastructure so that once somebody gets in, we keep checking to make sure they really should be in. We're not just letting them through the door and letting them have access to everything they want. So it's a much more robust way to track who's touching your information resources, your systems, and your data. And then finally, cloud and Internet of Things security. This is really making sure that as we move services to the cloud or to hosted applications, that we have appropriate protections and connections to make sure we're not letting bad actors or problems in through those avenues. And then on the IoT side, that's things like making sure our SCADA environment is highly protected, making sure that systems have appropriate gaps between them so we don't have threats or bad actors jumping between systems. It's a combination of architecture, monitoring, and auditing. So what we're going to do in the 25 to 27 biennium is we have a gap today in our policy standards and best practices. All of our documentation, all of our standards are really based around earlier iterations. They don't address AI. They don't address things like a hybrid workforce that could be located at home and not in the office. Our standards say you will have a complex password, you will change it so often, you will, X, Y, and Z. We need to evolve those and bring those up to standard for the way our employees work, the threats we're experiencing, and the changing nature of those threats over time. So we're going to bring in a cybersecurity analyst role to my team, and we're going to start there to make sure that we're accounting and setting the policy foundation for the technology that we're going to follow on, which is going to be one of the key things we're going to be doing is implementing an employee education and assessment tool. This is teaching staff about how cybersecurity threats can affect them, where they may come from, a whole variety of topics related to staying safe and protecting the district's assets. That'll be followed up with some technology that lets us audit that, sending phishing emails and seeing who clicks on them, seeing who accesses things that they know they shouldn't that could cause trouble. So it's really the auditing and reinforcing. You're not just taking a 3-minute video course and answering a couple questions. We'll check on you periodically over time, and that helps us build a baseline of making sure that the messages and the behaviors are reinforced and they stick. And then finally, we're going to deploy some supporting technologies for auditing our environment, tracking network traffic, preparing for continuity of business situations if a service goes down, things of that nature. So we're rebuilding, I should say, our foundation of cybersecurity so that as threats begin to evolve even faster and faster, we're not left behind. So with that brief update, any comments or questions?
That concludes the CEO announcements and the management report.
We'll move into commissioner communications. The commissioners will now report on recent meetings attended. Let's go with Commissioner Doan.
Surprise, surprise. Well, let's see, I've got a general announcement. I'm having cataract surgery in April and May. I'll be gone for, the optimistic side of the surgery is, like 10 seconds. And the pessimistic side is a couple of days. But I'm scheduled around meetings. Other things are, the, I'm sorry, the regular board meeting, the work session, and the meeting I have with Paul before the work session. That's it for me.
Commissioner Duggan.
Yes, on February 26th, I attended the Metro Impact meeting where there were introductions of the new officers and discussion of improvements, high transit improvements to 82nd Avenue. And on the 3rd of March, I attended a meeting with Paul where we went over policy issues and updates. I attended the board work session on the 4th. On the 11th, I attended the Washington County CPO #1 meeting, where it was an extended session of service provider updates, and Frank Reed represented the district very well and talked about our West Lawn Terrace pipeline replacement project, and then tonight's meetings. Thank you.
Commissioner Lysick.
I attended the work session on the 4th. I had a monthly touch base with CEO Matthews on the 10th, and then tonight's meeting.
Commissioner Sanders.
I also attended the work session on the 4th, agenda planning meeting on the 6th, and tonight's meeting.
So my since our last meeting has been a little hectic, but on the 26th, I attended the Washington County Democrats Central Committee meeting. I was invited along with one of our THPRD directors, since we're in the season of special district elections. They wanted to hear about what special districts do and specifically about what THPRD and TVWD do. So it was an interesting evening educating folks about special districts. I then met with a Tigard City councilor on the 27th, and we shared updates about the city and TVWD. Had a check-in with our CEO, then had the work session, agenda planning session meeting. I also attended what was billed as a town hall, though it didn't seem like a town hall. It was a county budget info session with the county chair of Washington County, where they explained their budget process and the things that they were going to start to do to fill in their budget gap. I had another check-in with the CEO on the 11th, and then on the 12th, Paul Matthews and I attended the SDAO legislative reception down in Salem, where we got to mingle with other SDAO members and talk with some legislators. And then on the 13th, I attended the Westside Economic Alliance Government Relations sort of monthly check-in meeting, where I got to hear from Paul Matthews and our friends at Wilsonville about our general government relations agendas. And then tonight's meeting. Do we have any topics to be raised by commissioners? Okay. We'll move into public comment. Public comment time is set aside for persons wishing to address the board on items on the consent agenda and matters not on the agenda. Additional public comment will be invited on agenda items as they are presented. Do we have any persons who would like to comment?
Not seeing any this evening.
Okay. Then we will move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Any board members may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action. Any items requested to be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion will be considered immediately after the board has approved those items which do not require discussion. And we have 3 items on our consent agenda.
I move to accept all the items on the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passes. We have adopted the consent agenda. We'll now move into our business agenda. And while Matthews is up again.
Well, good evening again, President Fisher and Commissioners. Tonight will be a brief presentation on our proposed 2025-27 strategic plan. This is the same information that we went over with you at the work session earlier this month. So we want to bring it into the public session, but I don't want to go through all the details. We really appreciate the discussion. I appreciate the participation of the leadership team in talking about their initiatives, so that was very helpful. A quick overview of our status, of our process that we have, our strategic plan. It's a very deliberate process that we go through. It starts with an assessment by our strategic planning team that really looks at how we're doing versus the desired results, which you may recall that the board adopted. Then we have a series of steps, ultimately, that culminates in putting these things in the budget, which we'll be working on shortly once this is approved, and then finally executing those over time. The desired results are those results that you did develop and approved. Well, I guess we developed on your behalf, presumed to you, but you approved those. Those are the touch points. So we're assessing our performance relative to those and developing a strategic plan to improve on those items. When we did our assessment, you can see here that we do have areas that we wanted to focus on, and our strategic plan does focus on those issues. First, most important one that you see there is responsive customer service. And we've talked about the need for us to keep focusing on normalizing our customer information system. We'll keep working on that as we go forward. But we keep focused on the big three. And this is a continuing theme that we've had for a while, but because the district's focus hasn't changed. The first one is continuing providing quality water and service to our community. That's important. That's why we're here as a water district, is to make sure the community has that quality water and service. The second thing is completing the construction and integration of the Willamette water supply system into the districts through the operations. Mr. Krask is leading the efforts on getting all that capital project work completed. Appreciate that. And then we have to integrate that here into the district. And the last one, we're going to continue to focus on normalizing the operation business processes for our new customer information system. I'm not going to hit all these things. These are the same ones that we did last week, and we're not going to go through the same presentation that we did. But if there are any questions about these, we can certainly have the experts here in the room answer them. Are there any questions about the proposed initiatives? If there are none, then staff recommendation is to adopt resolution 0825, a resolution approving the 2025-27 biennium strategic plan for the Tualatin Valley Water District. With that, I'll answer any questions you may have.
So moved.
A second?
Okay, all those in favor of adopting resolution 0825, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passes. And now we'll hear from Justin Carlton.
Just do this one.
One, right? I couldn't remember.
A little self-conscious coming across there.
Thank you, President Fisher. Good evening, Commissioners. So the second phase of our financial planning process is the financial strategies for 25-27. This is similar material to what was presented at the work session earlier this month. Just a reminder, some of the key risks that we focused on when developing these alternative strategies that we presented were focus on uncertain national political environment and its effect on the economy, as well as the ongoing concerns over affordability of our water and the construction and operating costs that we'll be facing in the future. Regardless of whatever recommendation is adopted, we're going to continue to manage our expenditures carefully and within budget. We're going to continue at your direction to fully resource the customer assistance program, and we'll continue to pursue federal and state assistance whenever it's available. Some of the assumptions that went into baseline, just a reminder, is our cost for Portland Water in fiscal 26, and then that will be replaced by our purchases from the WWSS starting in fiscal 27. Our total cost for operating the WWSS, so this includes the first year where we're not in full commercial operations, as well as purchased water in fiscal 27, are about 17.8 or 17.85 million. We're assuming increases from the Joint Water Commission of 20.3% and then increases pumping power of 23% based on projections we're hearing from PGE. So you just adopted the strategic initiatives. That's going to drive the direction in terms of the process. And now the financial strategies will help us align rates in our budget development process, which then eventually feeds into the financial plan development, and that'll be brought to this board later this summer. And then finally, the last step in the process is actually adopting rates to support the execution of the financial strategies, the budget, and the long-term plan. The two strategies that we proposed have the same level of expenditures, and so they'll achieve the objectives for the initiatives that were adopted. And what we're looking at is two alternatives for proposed rates. The first strategy would be a 3% rate increase, consistent in the near-term future of the financial plan. The second strategy would have two lower rates in fiscal 26 and 27, which would then result in slightly higher rates in the out years. And you can see the example of what that would look like in terms of the impact of a typical bill on a monthly basis for a customer of using 7 units of water per month. The impact to our net leverage, so it's pretty slight improvement over time using strategy 1 as compared to strategy 2. So as we tail into the next biennium, we're looking at a net leverage below 4, which is a good net leverage to be at and could potentially improve our credit. Based on the recommendation we heard from the board on applying that guidance at the work session, staff is recommending the board adopt resolution 0925, which would approve financial strategy alternative 1 for the 25-27 biennium.
Okay, so first of all, are there any questions for Justin? Okay, do I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 925?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed? The motion passes. Now we can adjourn.